They told us humans were fragile. That was the word used in the briefings. Fragile. As if they were a material, glass or thin shell, something that shattered once sufficient force was applied. Individually weak, socially chaotic, dangerous only in numbers, and even then, mostly to themselves. They also told us not to land on Sector 13. That part wasn't official. It never is. It came in the pauses between sentences, the lowered voices of veterans, the way experienced raiders quietly adjusted flight paths without explanation. Human superstition, command called it. A cultural infection. Irrational fear of numbers. I laughed at that. 13 was just a number. My first mistake. Sector 13 was old. Older bulkheads, older wiring. The kind of place humans gravitated toward because it was cheap and no one bothered them. I'd chosen it deliberately. Fewer cameras, slower response times, easy prey. Apartment 13C sat at the end of a dim corridor. The door showed where scuffs, dents, a patch where something had clearly been repaired rather than replaced. A sign of poverty. Or so I thought. The registry listed the occupant as civilian. Maintenance contract. Single. No combat history. No military discharge codes. No neural combat implants. Perfect. I breached the lock in under 3 seconds. Silent. Clean. Inside, the apartment was orderly. Not pristine, but intentional. Tools hung neatly along one wall. Furniture placed for function, not comfort. A faint hum of machinery somewhere deeper in the unit. The air smelled like oil, metal, and something sharp. Ozone, maybe. The human stood in the kitchen. He was holding a ceramic mug. He wasn't startled. Didn't flinch. Didn't even raise his heart rate noticeably on my scanners. He just looked at the broken door, then at me, then down at the mug. He sighed. Of course, he muttered. Predators don't like that tone. That was when a thin line of unease crept into my thoughts. I raised my weapon anyway. Confidence is a habit. Remain still, I said, translator smoothing my voice into his language. This will be painless. The human set the mug down on the counter. Carefully. That detail still haunts me. Not panic. Not haste. He placed it like someone who didn't want to clean up a spill. You picked 13, he said. I fired. I know I fired. The weapon discharged. The bolt crossed the space between us, and the human was simply not there. No blur. No warning. One moment he existed, the next the space was empty, and then something hit my wrist with bone-crushing force. My weapon skidded across the floor. Pain exploded up my arm as joints failed in rapid sequence. I was airborne. Then I wasn't. Then I was again. The human moved like physics had filed a complaint and been ignored. He used the environment without looking. Walls, counters, furniture turning into weapons and leverage points. Every motion was economical. Nothing wasted. No flourish. No anger. That was the worst part. I know what you're thinking, he said calmly, as he wrenched my shoulder out of alignment. You think I'm military, I screamed. He waited for it to stop. I'm not, he continued, dragging me back when I tried to crawl. Never was. He opened a drawer. Metal glinted inside. Tools, not weapons. He selected one anyway. They tell stories about humans, he said. but they tell the wrong ones. I tried to beg. My translator failed to find polite phrasing through the pain. They talk about soldiers, Marines, shock troops. He knelt beside me, efficient, methodical. But those aren't the scary ones. He met my eyes then. Not hatred, not rage, just exhaustion. The scary ones are the people who survive accidents, who fix things that break, who get mugged, ignored, written off. He tightened his grip. The ones who learn, quietly, how much force it takes to end a problem. Something cracked. I lost feeling in 2 limbs. And sometimes, he said softly, they're just people who wanted to finish their coffee before a double shift. When I woke, I was wrapped in a blanket. Station security lights flashed against the walls. Medics froze when they saw my injuries. One of them made a warding gesture humans don't even know they taught us. The human was gone. A note was taped to my chest, written in rough block letters. Didn't kill him. He might learn. 13C. I spent cycles in recovery. I told command it was an ambush, equipment failure, anything but the truth. They didn't push. They never do when the numbers are involved. Sector 13 was decommissioned within a week. Renumbered. Reclassified. Officially, it never existed. But humans still remember. They always remember. And when I walk station corridors now, I don't look at the doors. I look at the numbers, because 13 was never unlucky. It was a warning, the part they don't put in reports. No official report mentions apartment 13C. Officially, Sector 13 was condemned for infrastructure instability. Officially, the intruder's injuries were classified as the result of an internal dispute. Officially, the human resident was reassigned. Unofficially, everyone knows. Dock workers were the first to talk. They always are. They said the corridor cameras went dark before the breach, not after. That internal sensors recorded 17 impacts in under 6 seconds. Too many to be weapons fire, too precise to be panic. No alarms were triggered past the first shot. That detail spread fast. Then a name started circulating. Elias Mercer. It showed up in old maintenance logs, half-forgotten work orders, systems audits filed minutes before catastrophic failures. That never happened. Hull fractures sealed by hand. Reactor surges neutralized without escalation. Boarding attempts that ended abruptly, followed by a single-line report. Issue resolved. Always the same name. Always followed by a reassignment. Always followed by silence. The underworld gave him a title. The Tenant, because the stories always started the same way. He lived there. A cheap apartment. A bad deck. A number people avoided. 13. Always 13. The stories claimed he wasn't military. Humans confirmed that much. No records. No service history. No medals. That terrified them more than if he'd been special. Because if he wasn't trained, then he'd learned. Veteran raiders started refusing jobs in human sectors. Smugglers began checking door numbers before docking. One survivor, broken, half rebuilt, was overheard warning a crew, "Don't touch human doors. And if the number looks wrong, leave." When asked why, he only said, he didn't fight like a predator. He fought like maintenance. Station command hates the rumors. They call them superstition, contagion, cultural bleed-through. But crime drops wherever the tenant is rumored to live. And sometimes, just sometimes, Dockhands swear they see a tired human with oil-stained hands, carrying a ceramic mug, moving into an apartment no one else wants. The name on the door is never the same, but the number always is. And now, no one laughs at 13 anymore, because it was never unlucky. It was occupied.